Jenny, coach and NLP practitioner, helping people design their lives after divorce and separation. I've had several people come to me and say it's so painful to see my ex with someone else and how do I manage? And I really understand it. I've been there. It's difficult. It's really difficult. And I hear it from my clients too. So their partner has moved on to another relationship, often very quickly, and it really hurts. Even if you don't want to actually be with them, even if you're the one that's instigated the separation, it still hurts. And I see a lot of people holding on to that pain, sometimes for years and years. And what often happens is they blame the other person, usually the other woman, and it could be the other man too. And they point all of their energy into bitterness and why wasn't I enough, and lots of questioning about themselves. And one of the reasons I don't hold a grudge against the other woman or the other man is that it doesn't do any good. It doesn't help. It gives short-term relief, but it doesn't give you growth and it doesn't give you inner peace. And even if that new relationship was born before the separation, as in it was a result of an affair, the only thing I believe that we can do is work on ourselves. So blaming other people, questioning their beliefs and values, being angry is totally and utterly normal. And in fact, because I didn't have that expression with my situation, my therapist said it was very unusual. And I think she thought that maybe I would have a meltdown at another time, but I didn't. I was actually, it was all okay from all directions. So it is completely and utterly normal, but it's in the long term not helpful. And I was actually quite shocked when I realised I felt this way, because I had been brought up with the very traditional values and thoughts, and I'm thinking that cheating is a terrible thing, and we know that it's not good, and we know that it's really hurtful, but it is really human, unfortunately. And I don't believe that the other person is there and they've stolen your person away and that they are evil. But I think that that is the traditional way of seeing it. And I see it with my girls too. You know, they're of an age where they're watching relationship type programs, and it's very much shown in that light that the person who has come into the relationship is a terrible, evil person with no morals. And the person that's left is an awful person. And the person that's been left behind is quite often portrayed as whiter than snow and has never done anything wrong. And for me, I understand all of this. It's easy for us to understand that, but it doesn't help. And what it doesn't account for is the fact that we're all human beings and we've all made mistakes. So I've looked around and noticed what's going on around me, and I've started to question how helpful this is and how we can help the people that are left behind when a new relationship has started, and how I can help my clients to move forward much more quickly and not hold on to all of that anger and bitterness that they're holding on to, and pointing it in a direction that's really not helpful for them. I was quite reluctant in some ways to speak about this because it is such a volatile conversation. And I was in a Facebook group recently where the language used against the other woman was almost inhuman. It was like they had taken the person out of there and replaced it with something that they felt they could say certain words about. And for me, I found it really difficult. And one of the reasons I find it difficult is because I have over the years known the other woman. They're around us, they're in the streets, they're in these groups, all of these groups that have people with who are massively hurt and angry and bitter, but the language they use against this other person is so intense and so furious that I look at it and I go, well, what do I know about the other woman? And I know that they are not people who go around hunting for other women's husbands. I know that they're usually confused, lost, feeling very anxious, unhappy, and have a belief that they can rescue the man from some awful situation they believe they are in, or that the man can rescue them too. So usually they feel very insecure and in an unsatisfactory relationship, and generally with your ex, because the ex hasn't actually changed. And when those things happen, the other person sat there thinking, well, they've done that with that person, why won't they do it with me? And even if it's not consciously, subconsciously, that's always going to be a question. So does any of this make it right? No. But does it make the situation human? Absolutely, it does. And what do we do when this happens to us? Because it's really difficult, it's really painful. And for me, the thing that helped me was, how can I help myself the most? It was asking that. How can I remind myself of my own worth? And how can I build that up if my worth level is really low at the moment? And we can spend years asking questions that will never be answered. The questions that are worth asking are, what am I going to do now? What do I want for myself in life? How can I grow from this, and who can help me? So who out there is able to help me in this situation and increase my confidence, increase my self-worth and how I feel about it? How can I do that? And so I'm going to discuss the next steps for what you can do when you're feeling really in a lot of pain about the fact your partner has moved on with someone else really quickly. When I inadvertently discovered that my last partner had found a new relationship straight away, it felt like all of my emotions were trapped underneath my skin. It was weird. There was an army of ants crawling just below the surface. I couldn't stay still. I was like, oh, it was just horrible. It's probably one of the worst feelings I've ever experienced. And it wasn't because I wanted that relationship, but it brought up a lot of questions about myself. I wondered why I had tolerated the things that I had for so long. Why hadn't I stood up and said no? And why was someone else worth more than me? Why was he willing to do the things that I'd asked him to do for me for someone else when he point blank refused? So that's a lot of questions that when we ask those things, why didn't they do that thing for me when they can do it for someone else? That can be really difficult. And at the time, they said to me that I had taught them a lot about relationships and about how to be in relationships, and they would use that, and they were using that for this new relationship. And I know it was meant with the best of intentions, but that's not a thing to say to somebody. Meghan Trainor's written a song about it, actually, where the other person learns so much from you and from what went wrong. They go on to have a better relationship with someone else because they've learned. But actually, the reality is that's what happened for me too. So in that relationship, I learned all the things I didn't want and some of the things that I did. And because I'd learnt those things, it's helped me with this new relationship. So it's hard to hear it back at you, but actually I had to then look at it for me and go, okay, so what have I learned through this? Why is this? What can I take from this? So it's hard to hear. You don't necessarily want to be told that your ex, who was a bit difficult, has taken all of those learnings from you and your difficulties and channel them into something better for someone else. But if they can do it for them, then we can do it for us too. So what did I do? The first thing I did actually was I messaged my coach, and I was like, look, I'm really struggling. My skin feels like it's crawling off and I don't know what to do and I can't sit still. So she booked in an appointment that day. It was that evening, actually. She was just amazing for me. And we did some tapping. And the immediate release of that feeling under my skin that felt out of control was gone. And that was a great thing for me because I'd trained in tapping quite a while ago and completely forgotten about it and forgotten about the use of it. And just having that reminder means I've brought it into my life a lot more. I've got a video on tapping, so if you want to find out more about a tapping process, you can do that. So I use tapping. We did some NLP and we reframed everything. So we looked at the visual that I had created in my head when I discovered he was with somebody else. And it was a discovery they didn't tell me. And because of history, I knew that that was a pattern for them. They would hide things until they felt it was a good time. But that just made it more difficult for me. And because I knew all of that past stuff, that was difficult. So we did some reframing. How can we look at this differently? How can it benefit me? And so I get that it's so hard when you see the person you have loved for however many years move on, seemingly without a care in the world. But now you get to choose whether you stay stuck in anger and bitterness or whether you use it to grow. If you're still feeling the way you do today in 5 years' time, how's that going to be for you? How's life going to be? How difficult is your body going to feel? Because for me, it was a whole body sensation. And if I had held on to all of that, my body would be feeling really awful. And I know from experience for me that those sorts of things manifest in my autoimmune illness and that kind of thing, and illness, like physical body illness. So I didn't want to have that because I was holding on to stuff. This is not the same as other illnesses, by the way. This is me noticing that my anxiety over the years has created certain things within my body. So I'm not saying that all things create illnesses. What I'm saying is I recognise for me that when I'm going through high anxiety, I get an upset stomach, I get a lot of colds because my immune system drops, and it's quite common that autoimmune illness is kicked off by stress. So if you get to choose is basically the response to that. So you might think it'll fade over time, and it probably will. And, you know, these things do, but we can hold on to them. But without having a plan for how you want to move forward and without having tools, it can take longer. And we can waste a huge amount of time and energy. We can take all of these things into our new relationships and cause all sorts of chaos and strife within those relationships. So if you're still holding on to that underlying question of why them and why not me, here are some tools that can help you. So the first thing I've mentioned already is tapping. For me, that helped release a lot of energy. I love tapping. It's something that I learned about a long time ago, and then it just came back to me in the last few years. And I thought, yeah, this really works, it's really helpful. So the first thing we can do is the karate chop. And I'm not going to go through it all right now, but there's a full video. Some of the spaces that we like to tap, the karate chop point is a really good one. And the collarbone always gives me a sense of release. And it's about releasing the emotions that you're trapping in. None of these things are about ignoring your feelings. So don't ignore your feelings. Acknowledge your feelings. And tapping is all about acknowledging the difficulties. It's not about ignoring them. It's about releasing them out so we can deal with them instead of having it all trapped inside. There's loads of NLP tools. So NLP is an amazing tool. I love everything about it since I became an NLP practitioner. So there are, again, more videos on here about different NLP tools, but if you find a good NLP practitioner, they can help you with your thought processes, your mindset, any anxiety that's been brought forward from the relationship or from the separation, and from seeing them with someone else. One of the things I know from a reframing point of view, and reframing is an NLP tool, is that when you look at the new relationship, are we looking at it with all the information? Because most of the time we're not. We're looking at it from our thoughts, the movie that's running through our heads. How many of you got the movie running through your head of your partner laughing and joking and sitting on the couch and watching TV and going out and doing fun holidays with the new person. How many of you got that movie running in your head? And that can be really difficult to cope with. But if you look at that and you think, well, that's not the real picture, I don't know what the real picture is. People probably thought that you had a great relationship from the outside looking in. I know with my marriage, not so much the relationship, but with the marriage, from the outside looking in, it looked absolutely idyllic. It looked perfect. So I always look at that and go, okay, so that looked perfect to the outside, and I know what was going on in the inside. So you can reframe things in that way. Have realistic thinking. Were you really ever going to go off into the sunset and live your old age together? And if you genuinely think that you were going to, I did with my marriage, it's not that I didn't, and have some realistic thinking about what is actually going on now, what has happened, and write things down if it helps you to get a clear head on where you've been and where you're going. And talking about where you're going, goal setting to design your future. Now, goal setting is important that it's for you and that you have control over the goal. So there is no point in setting a goal saying, well, I'm going to get this person back. That's not a goal you can have any control over at all. There's no point in having a goal that says, I'm going to make sure they're miserable, because that's not really very helpful either. So the goal has to be for you, and it's positive, something positive for you. I'm going to have a brilliant relationship with myself. I'm going to learn how to love myself. I'm going to learn how to be more confident. I'm going to learn how to communicate better. I am going to embrace myself. I am going to know that I am enough. And then I'm going to find a partner who is great for me. One of my mantras the whole time was, I know there is someone out there who wants the same relationship I do. And that was really important. So I know there's someone out there who wants the same relationship as I do. And saying that over and over and over again got it into my subconscious. I knew that there was somebody out there at some point in the future that was going to take all these learnings from, that was going to be there and wanted the same relationship as I did. So if this all feels quite overwhelming and a bit too big to cope with, come and join me in my Facebook group. It's called Design Your Life After Separation or Divorce. And in there we break it down, we've got motivations, we've got chats and talks, and it can really help you to just take it slowly and have a community around you to work out all these things. Because you're not the only one asking this question. You're not the only one thinking, how on earth did they move on so fast? How on earth did they just forget about me just like that? How on earth did they not care about me enough for it to be a big thing? And all of those questions that go around in their heads. And if you're asking yourself those questions, come and join us in our community. It's free. There's loads of stuff in there. We're going to look at dating as well. So if in the future you're interested in dating, that's all going to be involved. I've got someone else who comes in and works with me on that. So if you are struggling at the moment, your partner's gone off with someone else, and it doesn't matter whether it's a male, a female, it doesn't matter whether it's the husband, the wife, any of that stuff, it doesn't matter. It happens to everybody in all of these different relationships. So come and join us in our Facebook group. I know this is a really difficult topic. I know that it's high emotion when it's about the other person involved that has come in, and perhaps before you ended your relationship too. I know it's difficult, but this is about moving you forward for your life. So if you found all of this useful, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of that good stuff. I hope to see you in our group, and remember to always have a really powerful day.